Hi there, and welcome to the Plugged In Show. I'm Paul Acey. What is the best Christian movie of all time? Well, according to you, it is... Oh, we'll get to that soon enough, because we'll be talking about our conclusion to the Christian Movie Madness bracket that we've been doing for the last several months. We pitted 64 of the most successful faith-based movies against each other in a rollicking bracket-style tournament. Every few days, we asked you to vote on your favorites until just one was left standing. We'll talk about the film that cut down the cinematic nets, as well as some of the surprises and takeaways from the contest. And we'll talk about Christian movies as a whole, too. And speaking of Christian movies, we'll turn our attention to one that will be premiering on the Hallmark Channel in just a couple of days. That's right, the Hallmark Channel. Just how Christian is it? We'll hear all about it. And to help us talk about both of these topics, we're joined by Kennedy Unthank, Brett Eckleberry, and Jonathan McKee. Hey, guys.
Hello.
Okay.
Good morning.
So, Easter is just around the corner. And we have seen more than a few movies just this year about the life and death and resurrection of Christ. We've seen actually by this point, we've seen sort of 4 movies about the Last Supper. 3 of them are just sort of one big movie,
Right.
but we'll not count that. So now, while we're on the subject of sort of these cinematic treatments of Jesus' life, tell me, if you were going to be a casting director, you had an unlimited budget to work on, you were going to make a movie about the last week of Christ's life here on earth, who would you cast as Jesus, Peter, and Judas?
Good question. Good question.
It is.
All right, Kennedy, we'll start with you, because you're the only one who said that it wasn't a good question.
That was a great question.
Too late now.
Yeah, honestly, well, it was a good question because you gave it to us yesterday to think on. And honestly, I still don't really have an answer.
It's a tricky one, right?
I think I'd probably do Ryan Reynolds, Ryan Gosling, and Chris Pratt.
That is
I'm just kidding.
I was just
I
trying
wanted to know
picture-
who played what.
That is a different movie.
No, more seriously. I do think The Chosen actually did pretty good with their casting.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But if I were, I don't know if I would pick someone who people know.
Yeah.
I'd probably pick a lesser named,
Yeah.
3 lesser named actors,
Yeah.
because I don't know. I can't really think of too many named actors who, when I think of them, I'm just like, oh yeah.
That would be a perfect guy
just
for
like-
this role.
The first name that came into my mind was Liam Neeson, and I was like, well, he wouldn't fit the context, but it's purely because he's got such a good voice for Aslan.
Right.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, I mean, right, you run into the I guess the danger of the actor personality, right?
Yeah.
Taking over the role itself, which you really want people to focus on the roles, right?
Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
true. It's really true. It's weird that you mentioned Liam Neeson, because I was thinking about him as well. I don't know necessarily who he would play, but man, he just seems like he needs to
Liam
be in the
Neeson would
movie.
be great. Yes,
Right,
wherever.
right. All right. So
He'll
you totally.
he'll be like Cornelius or someone. Yeah.
There you go.
All right. So Chris Pratt is Judas. So what do you think, Brett?
Okay, so as I was putting this together, I realized that I just pulled from Star Wars. So with my actors.
Oh, so you did Liam Neeson
So
too.
I didn't actually, oddly enough, I didn't do Liam Neeson, so I'll let you know. So for Jesus, I chose Oscar Isaac, right? And Oscar Isaac actually voiced
Oh,
Jesus.
surprise! You're getting your wish.
There you go. Yeah, he actually voiced Jesus in an animated movie called The King of Kings that Kennedy just reviewed, right? That talks about Jesus' life. So I thought, hey, let's just bring Oscar Isaac into live action in that role. Funny enough, he also played Joseph in the nativity story that made it into our Christian movie Madness bracket as well. So for Jesus...
Not time for a segue yet.
Okay,
Brett. Sorry.
okay. Well, Oscar Isaac for Jesus. For Peter, I picked Riz Ahmed. He was in Rogue One. He played the pilot Bodhi. But I thought,
really are going.
sure, yeah, this is a Star Wars trio here.
That's great.
And then for
That's
Judas, I went to Andor and I plucked Diego Luna from that as well, the lead of Andor.
Oh, okay.
I thought maybe he could bring kind of that. You know, he's a little shifty in Andor, and I thought maybe he could kind of bring that to Judas as well with the pick. So I did go all Star Wars. I told you.
There's got to be something a little offensive when someone's like, "You're the first person I thought of to play Judas." You know?
He wasn't the first person I thought of. I just thought he'd be good.
I don't know which is worse.
That's hilarious. All right, Jonathan, what do you got for us?
Brett, that was good, man. I like that list. Oscar Isaac, good. Diego Luna, who was great in Open Range, which I'm sure Paul hasn't seen.
Yeah.
I definitely
there you
have
go.
not seen it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, good stuff. Yeah, no, I mean, it was funny. As you asked that question, I was thinking about it a little bit. Honestly, my gut when it came to Jesus, I was trying to think of somebody who, it's funny. You just made a comment about, make sure you're focused on the role, not, so the person, because there are certain actors where you look at, you're just like, oh, look, it's them again, and you see that almost every time. And sometimes it's because they don't have a lot of range. You think of other people like a Tom Hardy or something like that, who sometimes you just don't even recognize him because he just carries himself so different in every role that he's all about the role. And you'd want someone like that. So, when I actually thought of Jesus, I don't know why the first thing, and this might make some people angry because some people don't like some of the roles this guy played, but God bless him. I probably would have put Heath Ledger. I think he would have been a great, he was so amazing in the
That's
different
actually
roles.
a good actor for that. I can picture that.
Yeah, he would have. So, and some people won't like that choice, and that's okay. So I have a runner-up. Joseph Quinn, who played Eddie Munson in Stranger Things. He was the guy who played the kind of stoner in season 4, whatever. But he's a good young little actor, and he does a lot of variety.
I know. I just love the. I know some people won't like my first pick, so for my second pick, I picked the guy who played a stoner.
Yeah. Well, how else will people even know who he is? But he was that long-haired guy who was really a cool role in Stranger Things and more recent Stranger Things. But anyway, he's good. So somebody like that. But gosh, I mean, Kennedy said it, I think the chosen cast, they did so well with that. Peter.
That's a tough one.
David Krumholtz, he's getting older, but he's the guy who played, remember when he was a kid, he played Bernard in the Tim Allen Santa Claus, and he was in Numbers, the TV series.
Yeah.
He
was in Oppenheimer, too.
Great actor. Judas, Steve Buscemi.
Well, of course, right? That I was also thinking Steve Buscemi for Judas, honestly. It would be.
How do you do, fellow disciples?
That's it. I'm just sort of funny looking. In just a general funny looking sort of way.
He would be pretty great as Judas. So you did take one of my picks. Although I'm changing mine completely up. Originally when I sat down here,
Please do.
as you were talking, I hadn't even thought of the answer to my own question. But I was thinking, Ewan McGregor would make a really good Jesus.
He's played Jesus
He's
before.
played Jesus in one of the weirder
Right.
Christianese movies I've seen. Last Days in the Desert, beautifully filmed, but it is a strange movie. If I was going to pick somebody for Peter, I would love to have like classic Jimmy Stewart playing Peter, the everyman. And of course, Steve Buscemi is Judas. But now that I'm really thinking about it, why not just have Daniel Day-Lewis play all the roles?
All the roles. Okay.
Can't you imagine Daniel Day-Lewis as every single one of those
It would
people?
get a little confusing, but sure.
There would have to be some work on the costuming department just to make sure that it would
Just
work.
different facial hair. That's all you need. It's very character.
One has a mustache.
All right, so Hollywood, we need to make these movies happen. So anyway, so as we're talking about Christian movies, for the last month, we've been asking plugged-in users to vote for their favorite faith-based films. Well, voting on the championship round closed April 14th, which means that as of today, we know the winner. Brett, you've been following this closer than anybody.
Yes.
The winner is...
The Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
I can't say that I'm surprised.
No, this was kind of the juggernaut that was in our Christian movie bracket this year. It smoked pretty much every movie that it came up against, and it went all the way.
Yeah. And this was no surprise for you. This was the movie that you had sort of picked to win the whole thing from the very beginning, right?
When I was pressed, that was the answer that I gave. I just felt like it was a good balance.
That's good.
It was a good balance. You know, it's based on a beloved book. It's an adaptation that people seem to really, really like. I remember watching it as a kid, so I have fond memories of it as well. All of that kind of came together in a way that I thought, I think this is going to do pretty good, and it went all the way. So as determined by our voters, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is the greatest Christian movie of all time.
There you go. So I really did think that the final four, just the last four movies that we had in the bracket, it showed that our users really have a wide variety of taste. I thought, so the last four movies that were in the bracket: Ben-Hur, the classic from 1959, Facing the Giants, Chronicles of Narnia, Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, Passion of the Christ. These are four very different movies, and it made for an interesting finale for this entire bracket, right?
Oh, it really did. I loved how this shook out from the voters, because you just get to see the variety of Christian movies represented within the final four, right?
Yeah.
You have a movie from 8 decades ago being represented, right? And then you have a few movies that are kind of from the early 2000s range, but man, they're different. Passion of the Christ is very different from Facing the Giants, which is very different from Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which is, an allegorical tale as well. So I loved how it shook out.
Well, it was kind of nice too, because I remember at one point we were all kind of afraid, oh man, I hope it's not just going to be Narnia.
Yeah, all Narnia movies.
Because
which,
for a while it looked like
exactly.
it could be three
three of those
slots.
movies made it to the final 8. So yeah, we were wondering there.
I like Narnia as much as anybody. But
It's
that would
great.
be a lot. So just out of curiosity, we had nothing to do with the voting, right? This was all entirely plugged in users who did the voting.
Yes.
But if we were able to be kings of this particular bracket, which of those final four would you guys have voted for? Jonathan?
I think that probably our listeners will know what I'm going to say, because every time we talk about a good clip for Easter, I always bring this one up. But I'm going to go. And this isn't a knock on the others, because honestly, Passion was so good that I'd probably lean that way. And actually, I loved that my kids. We grew up Narnia films and stuff, but probably the books are better. So I'm going to go with Ben-Hur. I got to say Ben-Hur for sure, just because. I think those Jesus scenes are so powerful, and it's just such an incredible movie for the time. And actually, I think it holds true. Some movies look back and you're like, oh, that's dated. I don't think it's dated. I think it holds up.
Man, Jonathan, we agreed twice on this very podcast. It feels like
good.
How can it be?
How can it be? No, I totally would say Ben-Hur as well. It really holds up for a movie made in 1959. It holds up to everything that we would think it would be. It has this nice subtle message about the importance of Christ. It shows it's just a really well constructed movie. Plus, you've got the chariot scene. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And can I'm just going to stir the pot here.
Oh
before.
my goodness.
I think I think Kendrick Brothers have had some great stuff, but I was honestly surprised that of their films, Facing the Giants, what was the one that people went for. I felt like great story, great heart, but I'm just being honest, I don't think it was great filmmaking. And I think there's others out there. They have other ones. Other people did some good ones too. I think Woodlawn with Sean Astin.
Oh, yeah.
I think that one, there's a football movie with a great Christian theme, well done, walk away from. So I don't know. That Facing Giants honestly surprised me.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting because we had 5 Kendrick brothers that made the 64.
I think we might have had more than that, actually. We joked around a couple times. As the SEC was to this year's March Madness tournament, the Kendrick brothers were to Christian Movie Madness. They put in a lot of entries here.
Yeah.
And they did very well. The Forge, Courageous made it very far. Fireproof took down 10 Commandments. So Kendrick brothers were very well represented.
But Facing the Giants, the first movie that really put the Kendrick brothers on the map for that to be the one to go to the Final Four, it was an upset. I think that's really interesting. All right, so Kennedy, what do you say?
Well, I think it would depend. I think if I was going to pick one where I could sit down with my kids and do and talk about some deeper things that they'd still be interested in, then I'd probably have to choose the Narnia movie. But if I were going to pick one just based on its impact, I would probably do Passion of the Christ.
Yeah.
Because I think before I saw that film, I would read through and be like, okay, Jesus was flogged, he was beaten, he was all the stuff happened to him. But I don't think I realized how horrible that was until I saw that film, and I'm like, that's what flogging is, that's what all this stuff is. And yet he willingly did that.
Yeah. How old were you when you first saw it?
I want to say like 16.
Did your parents take you?
I think we just had the movie.
Oh yeah, yeah. It is a really impactful movie, right? And it is always a difficult one, sort of within the plugged-in realm, to know what to deal with, because it is so hard to watch and so violent and so difficult in so many ways, and yet it feels so true to what had happened. It's definitely one. It's sort of the classic movie where from a plugged-in point of view, you say, be aware this is very, very difficult. But if you decide to go see it, there's some incredibly positive, powerful messages that you can get from it.
And I would go with Passion of the Christ as well. Just like Kennedy said, like you mentioned, the word that I think of when I think of Passion of the Christ is impactful in a lot of ways. It really sticks with you, very similar to how Kennedy described. You read the biblical account and, okay, yeah, what does flogged mean? Like, I know it's not a good thing,
right?
But you have no idea kind of the depth of suffering that Jesus went through. At least I didn't. When you're reading through the biblical account, your mind can only go so far, especially when you're younger. Like, I don't really understand everything that went into it. And Passion of the Christ really was, again, unflinching in how it laid it all out. So I would lean Passion of the Christ.
Yeah, it is interesting. The story is just what we read in the Bible is just so strong. I can even remember, for some reason, when I was like 7 years old, right before we went to church on Easter, I decided I'm going to read, the actual story right from the Bible. And sort of like you bawling your eyes out after watching Passion of the Christ, I started crying after reading it because, you hear this stuff from your parents, what happened. You hear it I heard it from my pastor, every single year, probably multiple times a year. But there is a moment in time when that reality hits home in a really serious way. And for some people, I think that it hits home when you see a movie about it, because it just brings it on the big screen, on the small screen. When you see it, it brings a different character to the whole thing. So,
well, I think that was the film that really made me appreciate the hymn, How Deep the Father's Love for Us. Because there's this one section that's, behold the man upon the cross, my sin upon his shoulders. Ashamed I hear my mocking voice call out among the scoffers. It was my sin that held him there until it was accomplished. His dying breath has brought me life. I know that it is finished. And seeing that film and just seeing like this is what my sin required. This is the amount of pain that God had to go through.
Yeah.
In order to redeem me, and he did so willingly and voluntarily, and Jesus submitted to the Father's will to do so, and that was it's something, and then he endured God's wrath for me, and when I saw all of that, it really brought it into perspective.
As you're talking about that, Kennedy, it's one of the things that I sort of think is, when we talk about the bracket that we did, it was meant to be just for fun, just for our users to join in and talk a little bit about it. But one of the ancillary benefits of it, I think, is that it reminds us of some of these really powerful movies, these movies that can impact us deeply, impact how we think about our own faith, our own walk with Jesus, and maybe introduce us to new movies, right? That maybe we might not have ever heard of, but we think, oh, wow, this sounds like something I might be interested in.
Yeah. So like you said, I mean, a lot of it was, hey, let's have fun. Let's get our audience involved. We want them to vote. We want to hear what they think. But it's fun seeing like Jonah, a VeggieTales movie up against The Case for Christ in the first round, right? You see just the scope of Christian filmmaking.
I thought Jonah was going to do better, quite honestly.
You know, that was one of the surprises. None of the VeggieTales movies moved on. That surprised me. But really, yeah, it was to have fun. But also, as you said, we hope that this leads people to check out some other Christian movies that they maybe haven't before. Like, oh, I didn't know about that one, or that one sounds pretty cool. Maybe I'll check it out.
And for those of you who are interested, we did go and intentionally review every single one of the movies on that list that we had not yet touched.
Yes.
So a review for every one of those 64 is on our website.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah. Yeah. And as we head into Easter, you know, I am reminded about how we process our faith, especially at this time. You know, I think that our faith, the meaning behind it takes a certain more power, more poignancy, and I think for some, watching a movie can really help that process along. It can remind us of the sacrifice that Jesus made, about the incredible redemption of the cross, all that sort of stuff. What is a favorite movie that you guys might suggest during this time? If people are looking for a movie, obviously we've already talked about some of our favorites in this bracket, but is there a movie that you, as a Christian, you as in your family, do you try to watch?
I think after this year, because one of the movies that was in our bracket that I reviewed that I had not seen before was the Jesus film, and it goes. I mean, the crux of that film is it goes through the Gospel of Luke. Some parts are condensed, but it really tries to go through very, very faithfully from the beginning of the Gospel of Luke to the end. And I think that's one that I'm going to return to in the lead up to Easter, just because I was almost surprised. I feel like I shouldn't have been, but I was almost surprised just how impactful it was just to hear the words of the gospel just presented right on screen. And it was done very faithfully with the actors and everything as well.
Yeah. I think that's really true.
Yeah, I think it's a weird pick. It wasn't on our 64 list because Box Office Mojo is a little biased on what they consider to be Christian films. But honestly, The Lord of the Rings is just such a good trilogy.
That's fair.
It goes back to what I was talking about with if I want to pick a movie where like I could sit down with my kids and it's like 12 hours long extended edition, but other than like if I want my kids to be more likely to be interested in the source material. It's just got so many good biblical themes and I guess biblical adjacent, and you can really connect a lot of theological points to those. Like I said, it's going to be a really long watch, but you could pause it and be like, hey, that kind of mimics this thing. Because, I mean, Tolkien said it wasn't an allegory, but he did say that his faith directly became ingrained within the story, and so you can see those elements just pop up, and you can talk about them, and you know it's such a part of the reason why I like the trilogy is because it doesn't feel awkward at all to say, hey, do you want to watch Lord of the Rings? Right, because most people like Lord of the Rings, and so it's one of those really easy ways to be like, hey, let's think about something deeper without people being like, oh, I don't want to think about something deeper. So
well, it's got it all, right? It's got the good, the evil, the sacrifice, the redemption, the even coming back to save humanity. It's got so many of those great elements. Plus, you know, Helm's Deep. Can't go wrong with Helm's Deep.
Yeah, no, I can't disagree with that one, Kennedy. I mean, it's amazing, and sometimes those ones that aren't even necessarily in that category of Christian film, but just have strong thematic elements that you can use to have conversations with your kids. Those are really cool. If I was to give the Kendrick brothers a shout out, I would probably say War Room, just because I think that one from my family was one that was really impactful. We really liked War Room. But I'm going to go back to, if there's one that you just said, like if there was a film that I was probably going to show kids today, that where they, with little cheese factor and really good stuff. I'm gonna stick with what I said earlier, Woodlawn. I mean,
Yeah.
got some great acting.
Yeah.
Yeah, great
It's a
performance. I
good
mean, you got-
movie. It's a really good
yeah, I
movie.
mean, John Voight and I mean, so many. There's just some talent in that film, and it's just a good story. I think it's pure flex. I mean, it is a good, well done film. And I mean, I remember Sean Astin's does basically this gospel presentation. I mean, it doesn't shy away from truth. So, yeah,
Yeah.
should be on that list.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it did make it to round of 32, right?
It did. Yeah, second round.
Yeah. Football movies, they do well.
They do well.
Yeah, for sure.
If I was gonna point to something, it's interesting because we've talked quite a bit about The Chosen, and we've talked about how strong the movie has been for so many Christians, because it sort of can flesh out some of the ancillary characters that we don't read about that much in the Bible. It's a really, for a lot of Christians, it's a very impactful show. But when I think about this, I would actually go the reverse, and I would go sort of like what you were talking about, Brett. The Gospel of John. That was maybe, I don't know, 2003, 2013. Stars one of the actors from actually Lost. Yeah, yep. But it is a word for word retelling of the Gospel of John, and just to see that manifested on screen, there is a power to the scriptures themselves, undiluted, without subtracting, without adding. There is a power that comes with those words, and I think sometimes when you see it on screen, it can really come to light in a different sort of way. So, we have obviously seen a huge rise in Christian movie making in general. I think that probably the majority of the movies that landed on this bracket were made in the last 10, 20 years, right? Do you feel like the popularity of Christian movies making is growing? More people are making them, and if so, why?
I think so. I think that there are more movies now made up to a certain standard. I mean, I think we've talked about this before, but maybe 2024 was like the best overall year for Christian movies of all time. We've given that some serious discussion. So I think you're seeing a lot of different talented filmmakers coming to the fore, and maybe being given access to more resources to do it. Or you could say, instead of more resources, maybe the bar that you have to clear to make a movie has been lowered, just in terms of like you could film something on an iPhone. There are like plenty of professional movies filmed on iPhones, right? So I think the door has just been opened wider for more voices to kind of step in with a variety of resources. So I think that there have been more, and it's just growing. It's an exciting time to see that just expand, right? And see the scope of Christian storytelling.
Yeah. This was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this process. We're probably going to be doing more brackets in the future. We might even do sort of Christian adjacent movies like Lord of the Rings, movies that aren't Christian movies but sort of are.
See, but Lord of the Rings would just win. So there's no point.
That's a good point.
It'll be a bracket of 3.
Yeah.
We'll just have round robin.
That's funny.
Thank you, guys.
Hooey! Reckon it's hotter than a flapjack on a skillet out here, Obadiah. I can barely hang on to my gold pan.
You ain't kidding, Abner. Not that hanging on does any good. Nabbit, I ain't found a dad-burned flake of dad-burned gold yet. You about ready for a nose bag?
Yeah. Let me just take one more scoop of mud and... Wait. Hold on one cotton-picking minute, Obadiah. I think I see something.
Gold?
This here's better than gold. Looky here.
Well, I'll be becoming a screen-savvy family by the plugged-in team.
Praise be. I've been looking for a find like this going on 20 years now. Can you believe it?
I'll be hornswoggled. Ain't you the lucky one?
You bet I am. It's the mother lode of wisdom right here in my gold pan.
Too bad all the pages are all wet and muddy. And Abner, can you even read?
Read? For this bonanza, I'll learn to read. And Junior, he knows a word or two. He can read it to me. Why, with this in my knapsack, I'll have everything I need to protect me and mine from the dumb-fungled worlds of pop culture and technology.
I don't know, Abner. You do like your TikTok.
No, sir. That's all in the past for me now, Obadiah. Just holding this book makes me smarter, wiser, more
Sound it out.
discerning.
Well, I'll be. Can you share it with me?
Share? We're prospectors, Obadiah. We don't share. But tell you what, you can get your very own copy.
Now, how's that?
Just send in a gift of any amount to the plugged-in team. That gold nugget you fished up Tuesday'll do nicely. Just go to thepluggedinshow.com and look at the show notes. They'll tell you how.
Well, that's better than a bottle of sassafras for sure. Just one thing.
What's that, Obadiah?
Will they send me a dry copy?
For years, Hallmark was a destination for family-friendly movies, especially during Christmas. You can talk about their predictable plots or well-worn cliches, but no question people came to the channel in droves to watch, and a huge percentage of the audience was presumably Christian. Then a couple of years ago, Hallmark made the decision to make some holiday romances around same-sex relationships, and many faith-based viewers turned off the channel. Now Hallmark's back with a faith-tinged film called Journey to You. It won't be out for a couple of weeks, but Kennedy has seen it.
Mm-hmm.
Kennedy, can you tell us about this movie? What's going on?
Yeah, so it stars this woman named Monica, who has for the last 4 years.
That's the character name, right?
Yes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
She's been working nonstop at her hospital job. Because she's been so focused on her work, she's really, she's heard there's this promotion that's going to come out, and she really wants to get it. She really thinks because she hasn't taken a vacation in all that time, that she's definitely going to get it. She doesn't get it. And instead, her mom says, well, hey, you know, you've been so focused on work. Maybe it's time for you to just take a vacation. Maybe you've been too focused on work, essentially. And so she agrees, and her mom tells her that, you know, when your dad and I were both younger, we both went on this thing called El Camino de Santiago, which is a real thing in real life.
Really famous pilgrimage, right?
Yes.
Around in Spain.
Yeah, it's been around for like 1,000 years. Catholic in origin. In both the movie and kind of in the modern day, a lot of people just do it more for general spiritual reasons. So it's less of a Catholic thing now.
Yeah.
But so she agrees to go do it. And as she's walking, she gets put in this little group of people. One of them is named Luis. And if you know how Hallmark movies work, you know that he is a recently divorced dad who is just perfect to be loved.
Just perfect, of course.
And as they begin to walk together, they both have these things they want to resolve through the walk. Like Luis wants to reconnect with his son, who his son is super, he's more interested in technology, and he's kind of become increasingly more estranged.
Sure.
And Monica, meanwhile, she's just trying to, she kind of recognizes, well, I have this problem with control, and I'm trying to not have that issue.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. So we mentioned that this is it has some Christian themes in it. How Christian is it, would you say?
Well, I think in the review, I wrote it as the most non-denominational film you could probably make. It is you have no idea what Monica's kind of spiritual background is. Instead, it's more of just like, she has a devotional, which I believe is an actual devotional as well in real life. So if you watch the movie and you want it, you could go get that. But she reads from it every so often, and it asks questions like, have you ever tried giving your emotional stress to God? Things like that. And then they have some kind of vague Christian quotes. So in other words,
sort of faith light.
It's
Would that be fair to say?
faith light, and I guess the bigger picture, if you were to put a theological theme on it, is recognizing and surrendering to the fact that God is in control.
Which is a nice message.
And you see elements of that. And the journey to you is kind of the journey to God. Monica's journey to kind of recognizing that.
That's interesting.
So there are some elements in that, but like I said, it's very light.
Yeah.
It's not spelling it out for you.
Yeah. Any other problems that parents should be aware of if you wanted to watch this as a family?
Honestly, just as inoffensive, I think, as the Christian content is, I think the secular content is as well.
Well, that's kind of nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's a Hallmark movie, which used to mean, at least prior to like 2020, that there weren't really any issues because it was kind of just cheesy and family friendly. There aren't any same-sex issues in this film. No swearing. I mean, people hold glasses of wine is probably the worst thing other than a man and a woman kiss at one point.
Yeah, and it is
So
Hallmark.
if you're really freaked out about that,
Yeah,
then
don't watch it.
that's going to be pretty much the only thing. But
deal.
it's pretty content-free, just so as a movie by itself.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Kennedy.
Yeah.
And now it is time for my favorite part of every podcast, the game.
The game.
And today
Oh, yeah.
we are playing Pop Culture Connection. And to help us do that is our very own producer, Ashley. Hey, Ashley.
Hey, Paul. Yay.
All right.
We're getting better.
We are. We are.
Good.
All right, so the rules of the game, you will give us questions that
Yes.
we have to answer. We have to answer in 30 seconds or less. We have as many answers as possible. And Jonathan, they do have to connect to the actual question. They just can't be words strung together. And Ashley, you determine who the winner is.
Yes.
All right.
But this has nothing to do with pop culture today.
Oh,
I decided to go with breakfast foods.
Okay.
Oh, even better.
that's actually my favorite
Yes.
subject of all time.
Really?
I love
Awesome.
breakfast.
We have 4 questions on breakfast food.
Yes.
We'll see.
Yes, a this or that. So, Kennedy, we'll start with you.
Okay.
All right. Would you choose donuts or muffins?
Muffins, because I really like chocolate chip muffins. They're pretty much cupcakes already. They're you can take off the top and you can do the little thing where you smash it like in between. It's really nice. They come with their little wrappers, so you can keep your hands clean, unlike a donut. Muffins are also good because sometimes they're filled, and that's a surprise. Donuts are too, but we're gonna ignore that. Muffins as well just feel a little more exclusive. They also feel more, even more than donuts, like a dessert. So
Exclusive.
So when you take off the top and you smash it together, what are you
He
doing?
goes, you know,
No,
like
no,
you
no.
do. I was like, is this
you
like
take
something people actually
you take
do?
the top off,
Yeah.
and then you pull the bottom part in half, and then you put the because the top part is usually more
It's heftier.
heftier, thicker,
Yeah.
and so then you like a cupcake. Have you ever done that with a cupcake, where you take the bottom half of the cupcake and you smash?
No.
This sounds like a YouTube video.
No, I
you guys are
haven't.
gonna
Yeah.
have to
Oh,
come up
okay.
with.
So
We need to play by
so you're making it a sandwich at
Yeah.
that point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay.
I'm pro sandwich.
All
So,
right.
Eventually,
Thanks.
what we might put on the Plugged In Show homepage is like instructions for how to do
Yeah.
that.
I mean, I feel like it's
Yeah.
pretty self-explanatory.
I want a WikiHow article with like the pictures.
Take the bottom
cartoons.
half.
Oh,
Put it
I'm
on
thinking
top.
an
I need to.
Instagram reel. You guys need to do this and have our listeners go to Instagram
Please.
and check it out.
I think that's a
Yeah.
great idea.
Yeah.
go.
All right. So 6 points, Kennedy. Good job.
Was it really only 6?
Only 6. I know.
Wow.
I know. All right. Brett,
Yes, Ashley.
you get the meats. Bacon or
Oh.
sausage?
Okay, you got to go with sausage. It's just, Paul, be quiet. So it's sausage because you can do more stuff with it. You can do sausage patties, breakfast sandwiches. You can chop it up into a nice scramble with some tater tots and eggs and everything like that. Bacon is just one note. So sausage, you have to go with the sausage. Breakfast burritos are better with sausage. What else? Breakfast sandwiches, I already talked about that. How many ways can you make
did.
sausage?
Oh
nice,
my
nice.
I think I
goodness.
got like 3 points.
And you have to subtract 3 because it was the wrong answer.
No.
Wow.
No.
Wrong.
Sorry. Bacon is
Easy.
great. Sausage
Bacon
is a
is-
better breakfast food.
bacon is one of the
Brett,
5
welcome
most
to the
perfect
world
foods.
of Paul's criticism.
Well, I believe
You're
me.
now
I'm-
part of the team officially, Brett.
Thank you.
That
Thank
Paul
you.
is starting
just
to
saying,
take your answers apart
I
one by
feel
one.
simultaneously better and worse about myself.
Wasn't
Don't-
like
don't worry about
bad
it. Paul's going to give
sausage
one
making-
answer and explain it.
Wasn't like bad sausage making the whole plot of like Upton Sinclair's The Jungle or
Oh
something?
my!
Okay.
Wow.
And this is why I
Insane.
like Kennedy the best.
He never wrote that about bacon.
Never wrote that about it. Well,
Yeah.
all right.
Well, Brett, 5 points.
Okay.
Oh.
I'll
Good
take
job.
that. Thank
Good
you.
job.
Yeah.
All right.
5 points. 5
Paul, are
undeserved
you
points.
ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
All right. Omelet or oatmeal?
Oh, definitely omelet. I mean, you can't have an omelet every day, but it has so many different things you can put in it. You know, oatmeal is just oatmeal. Omelet, you can put bacon in, you can put sausage in if you really want to. You can even have veggies in there if you really wanted to, and so many different kinds of cheeses. You can do cheddar, you can do Gouda, you can do Swiss, you can do American if
count
you
as
so
one.
want.
Yeah.
This is a
He's
Jonathan
naming
answer
cheeses.
right now. You can have like 2 eggs, 3 eggs.
4, 5.
Jello,
Yes,
4,
yes.
5, 6. You can make a 12-egg omelet, a 20-egg omelet.
You can make it here. You can make it there.
You could eat it in a boat.
Well, you put them all to shame. 12 points.
Woohoo!
Man.
All right.
Oh my God.
I'm surprised you
Take
don't.
that, Jonathan.
I'm
I'm learning from
Hey.
you.
Paul, you learned that you can just say all kinds of meaningless stuff and it counts. You finally have learned.
You know, the next
young
time we play this
Padawan.
game, I am just going to start counting.
Yeah. You could have 1 sausage, 2 sausages, 3 sausages,
go.
4 sausages,
There you
5
go.
sausages.
All right, Jonathan.
Okay.
Pancakes or French toast?
Absolutely French toast, because first of all, you could use a French accent when you use it. You could put powdered sugar on top of it. You could cut it into different shapes. You could shove it in squares, circles, triangles, obtuse. You could even do different angled triangles if you want. You could do different syrups. You could do maple. You could do raspberry. You could do cherry. You could eat it with a friend. You could eat it with an enemy. You could eat it with
Eat it with an
people
enemy.
you've never even met before, strangers. You can throw them. You could use them as frisbees. You could use them as a doorstop. You could use them as brake pads.
could
The timer's up,
All
Jonathan.
right.
You could
All right.
mow the lawn with them.
All of those things could be done with pancakes as well. I want to say.
You know, Ashley, I think you need to write a rule book.
I think so.
But I do love.
It's too much fun to do it this way.
I do love. You can eat them with enemies.
You can't do that with
You
pancakes.
can't do that with pancakes.
Not pancakes. They just aren't conducive of that. Yeah.
All right.
All
Rein
right.
us in, Paul.
Well, how many points did he get?
Yeah.
Oh, I just lost count.
Okay.
I stopped at 19. You just keep going,
Yeah.
Jonathan.
Oh,
Exactly.
Good job,
man.
Jonathan.
I'm trying to learn, Jonathan, but you still have me beat. Okay, well, we shall call that a podcast. Thank you guys very much for joining us. Thank you so much for listening. Really appreciate you stepping away from your busy schedules to spend some time with us, and love the fact that so many of you participated in our Christian Movie Madness bracket. It was super fun. We would love to do it again. So when you communicate with us, because we would love it if you actually talked back with us, tell us what you would do for the next bracket tournament that we might set up. Should we do Christian movies, family movies, dare I say superhero movies? That would be pretty fun. So you can tell us that. You can tell us about your favorite Christian movie ever, whether it was in our bracket or not. And you can also tell us whether you watch Hallmark movies. Journey to You. Are you planning on watching that?
What do you think about birthday cards?
What do you think about birthday cards? I am in favor of them myself. But you can.
Hot take.
I have nothing against birthday
Yeah,
cards.
you're really
So
out on
tell
an
us,
island there, Paul.
Tell us on Facebook. Tell us on Instagram. Write us an email at team@thepluggedinshow.com, or you can leave us a voicemail at the Plugged In Show homepage. Really appreciate you guys joining us, and be sure to join us next week when our very own Brett Eckelberry takes over the hosting chair and talks about what makes a great family movie. So join us then
Good.
on the next episode of the Plugged In Show.
you.